Welcome to the richest glacial gold deposit I've ever found. I think we're gonna have a record-setting day today. Let me tell you why. Now, we've been here before, and this is a steep valley that kind of cuts into the glacial till, and the till is sticky clay. That clay acts as a bedrock, so the gold can't get any deeper. And in the center of this river channel, everything's kind of getting blown out, washed out, and it's getting thrown to the bank and stacked up. And all along the bank is these big boulders packed with gravel and sand, and it's all up on that clay, so you don't have to dig too deep to get to it. And the gold just stacks up here. And I've got all day to dig for gold, so let's get digging. I'm just gonna start digging along here and do a test pan just to make sure we're on the gold. And if it's confirmed, we'll set up and just start running. Look at that. First scoop and we're already down to the clay, right behind this big boulder. Wow. Broken glass. You know what that means. And notice I'm using my Garrett Super Sluice today. Giving that another try. Now, this river is also known for having a lot of lead. I find a lot of lead in this river, so it won't surprise me at all if there's a good amount of lead here too. I already see some black sand. I see black sand on the back edge there, and I want to make sure that I don't wash that black sand over the light sand, because there could be gold in that black sand, and that's kind of defeating the purpose. You want all that to stay at the bottom. So if I see that black sand on the back there, I'm gonna just be a little gentle and not take that edge over the clear white sand. Good enough just for the test. Wow, oh my gosh. This is gonna be a good day. So in the first test pan, we got specks all over. There's a nice speck there. More specks around, and look at that one. Oh my gosh. There's my finger for scale. I still can't quite feel it, but it looks really cool. We're off to a good start. Let's get to mining. Now, on today's setup, I got my standard Menards bucket.
Save big money at Menards.
Got my world's greatest classifier, which I still need to name. I call it my hand trommel. And today we're gonna be sluicing. I got my Dream Mat combo mat. It's got the micro Dream Mat on the top end and a little bit bigger size on the bottom end to catch different side golds. Now, I've never tested it, but I'm gonna isolate the micro mat versus the bigger mat and see how much gold is in each one while I'm sluicing. But that's enough jabbering, let's get digging.
What's that song?
Look, that's all just clay right there. I don't want to dig too deep on that. I kind of just want to skim the edge. Behind this big old boulder, right where there's that clay, that's probably a really good spot. Now, I don't think there's really any point in breaking down these clay balls, because that would be the till. The gold would only stick to the outside of it. It's not gonna be inside that. So I'm gonna treat that as like a cobble. Just kind of wash the outside really good and throw it.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Wow. Another giant piece of glass.
still don't know what that means.
That's all the further I'm gonna go with this bucket. You know what Jason always says? He says you don't really want to fill the buckets too full when they're all clay-rich material, otherwise it gets like cement down there, so we're not gonna push our luck. Let's set up the sluice. Now in this river, there's plenty of water moving. Almost too much water. Wow. The question is, do I have my scooper or not?
No way.
I got it. I got Mike's scooper. Thanks, Mike. Let's see how this is running. I think that looks about right. Gosh, sometimes I think I'm running it too fast, but then I look at shows like Gold Rush and they just have their sluice boxes flying so fast. I do see the little pockets turning black with black sand, and if there's black sand being caught, I know there has to be gold being caught. Just looks like it's running fast. And it's slowly creeping down. It's not like just getting blown out. Like I can see a little layer of black sand creeping its way down. It should be working. You know, if you run it too slow, then it all just packs up and the gold just skates over everything. Give me another 20 years and I'll know exactly what I'm doing. Right now I'm just having fun. I'm gonna put a catch pan below. Maybe. If one will fit. That won't catch all of it, but it'll catch some and it'll tell me if there's any gold getting by the sluice. All right, so I got 3 things to test. 4, actually. First, we test to see if there's any gold at all. But more specifically, I'm gonna test the tailings that I caught and see if we're losing gold. I'm gonna test the big riffles on the dream mat. I'm gonna test the micro riffles on the dream mat, and I'm gonna test my captures mat and everything underneath. First, let's see if we're losing gold. These little globs of clay that went through. Break those up now. There's some, but there's not a lot of black sand in there. That's a good sign. Oh no. So we did lose some. That's a big piece of gold there. Went right through my sluice box. Now I can't feel it at all, and it's potentially that it was just really flat, a big surface area, so that was kind of a tricky one to catch anyway, but definitely not what I want to see. I don't see any other pieces though. That's the only one I see. So, I mean, maybe that's good. Let's test the others. Well, typically I wash the whole thing out because it's faster, but we're gonna isolate it this time. So just unscrew my little screws here and the mat comes right out. So let's wash just the micro mat. These mats wash out really easy, so I don't think I have to be too violent with it. That looks completely clean as it is. We're gonna pan into another pan just to make sure I don't lose anything. I just wanna see what we're catching here. I see a few pieces of lead. There's one piece of gold. There's another piece of gold. Not much. Oh. So that's a pretty good piece right there. And there's a few microdots up there. I had a lot more gold in my test pan than I'm seeing here. So that's not a good sign for that micro mat. I must not be running that properly at all. But I really thought there'd be more in that micro mat. Let's test the next size bigger here. So it's a lot coarser size pieces. There's a lot more material. I'm gonna strip a little bit of it off just so we can see it better. Let's take a peek at that. And I see one small piece of gold there. So there's a speck there in the bigger riffles. But that's the only one I see. Good grief, where did all the gold go? That first test pan had so many specks. Well, the last thing I have to check is what I call my indicator mat. It's a low V collection mat, but it doesn't really do very good at collecting. At least I didn't think it did, but we'll check that. I actually do see some specks of gold in there. So hopefully none of the gold even made it to the dream mat. I'm just gonna make sure I don't lose anything. It's actually a fair amount of black sand in that. Here's that super cheap low V collection mat. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe it. Holy crap. I'm blown away. I'm shocked. Look at what was in the low V collection mat. That's where all my gold was. It never even made it to the dream mat. Unbelievable. I mean, that's all it is. It's just, there's nothing to it. So I am just blown away. I did not expect that at all, and I can't believe it's the first time I've tested that. But all my gold was right up here in the first 8 inches of the mat. It never even made it to the dream mat. Unbelievable. That is just amazing to me. I did not expect that at all. That's why the Flower Gold Wizard always tells us, test, test, test. If you don't test things and learn how they work, you won't know how they work. So now my question is, if that low V is catching it, should I run it faster so it gets to the gold mat? Well, regardless, I know that's a lot of gold and I want to keep running. So either way, I'm running another bucket. So I've excavated everything around this big boulder here, right down to the clay. So I'm gonna move a little bit farther out into the stream, and there's another big boulder that potentially was trapping gold. So maybe I can lift it. Oh my gosh. Oh, it ain't too bad. Oh boy. Yeah. And that boulder was sitting right on the clay too, so beautiful. That's exactly what you want. Schist.
Language.
Big gobs of clay. This classifier works like a cheese grater. Can really break it up, clean off the edges. I don't want the whole thing in there though. All right. So there's my second mostly full bucket. And off we go again. This is like the countryman's version of sitting in a casino. Every scoop might be the jackpot. Except I don't need to sit here and wear a diaper and actually walk away with something to show for it. All right, that's the last of the bucket, and I do see some gold in my indicator capture mat. I don't see any gold in the dream mat, but there's a lot of black sand, so I'm just gonna clean up the whole thing, see what we got. Well, before we take a look at this, I think we need some refreshments. Now, a common drink that we up in the Northwoods make is pine pop. It's just some sugar, water, and white pine needles that you let sit there and ferment a little bit. It's not alcoholic, it's just a little fizzy. Actually, I've never tried it before. This is the first time I've made it. Well, I figured I'd try it in front of you guys. Thought there'd be more fizz. Well, here we go.
How is it?
It's not very good. At all. It's bad. Don't try it.
It's actually not bad. It doesn't taste anything like pine needles. It's fizzy like pop, sweet from the sugar. To me, it almost tastes like a flat root beer or cream soda. Honestly, it's not bad.
Really good.
It's a little piney. There you go, pine pop. Cheers. All right, let's reveal the treasure. Toss it back. Some lead shot. Told you there's a lot of lead in this river. Wow. There are nice pieces all along the rim there. Some nice chunky pieces. Full of little specks. Unbelievable. That's just a yellow rock. But those are nice pieces of gold. Incredible. So obviously after a cleanup like that, we're gonna run another bucket. But I kind of have ADD, and I'm looking over here, and I really want to explore this. Now the river's coming really fast right here, and right over there is this whirlpool. And I'm thinking when water's coming high, it's bringing sediment there, and that's like a glory hole. So I want to take a few buckets, or at least a few shovelfuls in there, just to see if there's any gold hiding. I'm just a curious person. And there's still clay underneath here too. I'm right on the till, so this could be an absolutely amazing spot. Whoa. Is that quartz? I have to take a closer look at that. A big whirlpool that sits right on clay, false bedrock. You never know. Just a little bucket. All right, let's see if there's anything in that whirlpool. I don't see a single speck. Isn't that something? It looked like a great spot. That's why I test things though. Now it looks exactly the kind of place like Dan Hurd or Pioneer Polly would be pulling out big pickers or nuggets. But in this flower gold country, you don't have those big pieces. They're all just so tiny. I think the places you have to look for gold is a little bit different than those chunky pieces of mountain gold. I mean, to me, the whirlpool looks good, but there's no gold in it. So I'm just gonna keep following the edge of this bank and stick to the gravel. All right, here's another 2 buckets of treasure. Definitely not thirsty anymore. Pine pop.
The thirst mutilator.
So I can see some pieces of lead that are stuck there, and they just kind of sit there on that low V mat, like the gold was doing. Actually, I think I see some pieces of gold too through the water. Here's the last of those 2 buckets. Yeah. Actually, there might be a picker in there. That's a picker-sized piece of gold, or a yellow rock. No, that's not gold. It's just a yellow rock. You're like, that's what gold is, yellow rocks. Different kind of yellow rock. Let's take a peek at that. So still on some gold. Not as big a pieces or as plentiful, but it's still here. So I think it's time for another experiment. Now I got my sluice box set up, and it's running faster than I've ever had it running before. And being that our tests earlier showed that the gold didn't even get to the dream mat, it was all in that low V capture mat, or indicator mat. I want to run a little bit through this at the fastest it's ever been, and then see what we're catching for gold. And I'm gonna just run some of this without classifying it at all. Now, once again, I'm just gonna shovel material on there without classifying it and help the material down. My capture mat is just getting blasted. That is clean for sure. I can see black material in the pockets of the dream mat there, and there's a little bit of material there. So I'm gonna test it and see if we got gold. All right, so I just threw a few shovelfuls on there. The capture mat or indicator mat is blasted clean, although I do see one piece of gold on there. The dream mat definitely has some black sand in there, and I actually see one speck of gold in the micro mat. So definitely a lot less concentrates when I run it that fast. And this, I'm not gonna test the individual micro mat versus the big mat. This is just a test to see how fast can I run it and still catch gold. And it still does catch gold. It hung on to some micro specks in the edge there, and one bigger speck. I have no idea how much it lost, but if it's catching gold that small, that's a good sign. So what that tells me is I can run my sluice a lot faster than I think I can. Like I said, give me 20 years and then I'll have us figured out. But we got a whole heap of concentrates here loaded with gold. So I'm gonna pack it up, fill my holes, and then we'll head back to headquarters and clean it up. Okay, we made it back to headquarters, and I got these classified into 3 different sizes. I got my bigs, which is bigger than pencil box size. I got my mediums, which is bigger than kitchen strainer size. And I got my fines, which is smaller than kitchen strainer size. Real scientific, I know. Now we were on some good gold, so there might be some bigger pieces in the mediums, but most of the gold is gonna be in the super fine material. That's just the nature of mining this glacial gold. It's very, very fine. Occasionally some people find nuggets, so we'll check the bigs for nuggets. There were no nuggets. All right, we'll move to the mediums, and for that I'm gonna be using my Flour Gold Wizard cleanup sluice. I can already see gold stacking up on the riffles. And there's the final cleanup. Look at that, beautiful gold. I don't think that's a record, but it's probably enough to weigh. Let's see. All right, I got it all dried. See if it weighs. .04 grams. So today's price per gram of gold is $107.14 times .04 grams. That's $4.28. Oh, that's a good payday. So we were out there for probably 6 hours, so that's 71 cents an hour. Well worth it. And there's a little bit more for the vial. I think that's my favorite spot. Production's always a little bit slower for me because I gotta set up the camera, change batteries, mess with microphones and all that kind of thing, but that's all part of the fun for me too. We'll definitely be back to that spot and many more coming up. So come on back for those videos. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.